Euzu billahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Esselatu vesselamu ala Resulina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecmaîn. Esselamu aleyküm ve rahmetullah, brothers and sisters. Um, Last 2 weeks we read and thought on the wise purpose of fasting in Ramadan concerning so far God's domicality rububiyyah, man's personal life, social life, about the training of the lower self and thankfulness. So this week, inshallah, we will try to cover the wisdoms of fasting pertaining to the revelation of the all-wise Quran and the earning of spiritual profits. So the chapter we have been reading is the second station of the 29th letter from the Risale-i Nur collection from the book Letters. And today, as our speakers, we have Brother Colin Turner and Brother Husamet Atesh, both from UK. And welcome, brothers. And my name is Mohammed Furkan, joining from Connecticut, US. I'll be moderating the session today, inshallah, as well. And as usual, if you have any questions or comments, please post them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them as time permits, inshallah. With that, let's get started. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The sixth point, the most important episodes of divine revelation took place during the month of Ramadan. And so one of the many wise purposes behind the Ramadan fast pertains to the revelation of the all-wise Quran. It is as follows. Since the all-wise Quran was revealed in the month of Ramadan, to ignore the demands of the lower self by abstaining from food and drink means that we are able to respond to that heavenly address in the best possible way. Fasting then allows us to attain a state of holiness. It allows us to read and listen to the Quran as though it has just been revealed, or as though it is being revealed at this very moment as we read it. It allows us to listen to the Quran as though we are hearing it from the lips of the God's Allah's noble messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, or from the angel Gabriel, or indeed from the pure eternal speaker himself. It allows us to act as the Quran's interpreter, to communicate it to others, and to some extent to demonstrate through our actions the wisdom behind the Quran's revelation. So there are a lot of important points here. Brother Colin, would you like to start, inshallah? Any thoughts on this part so far?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's interesting that Quran and Ramadan have an affinity for one another, that we know that the Quran was revealed during this month. And it also has an affinity with being spiritually pure because, as the Quran itself says, only those who are pure will be able to touch the Quran. Now, unfortunately, because we are usually in a very jurisprudential mindset, and most of us Muslims are, unfortunately, we understand this notion of touching the Quran when we are impure to pertain mostly to when we are in a state of ritual impurity, and we need either wudu or ghusl. It means much more than jurisprudential impurity. To be pure in order to touch the Quran, it means coming with a humble heart and asking for the truth. In other words, putting aside one's preconception, one's assumption, and trying to listen to the Quran with an ear that is untainted and unsullied by personal whims, personal preferences, personal biases. One of the best ways of attaining that state, and Ustad Nursi talks about attaining a state of holiness, I think we need to reframe that and say that we need to attain a state in which God's holiness can be seen in us, is nearer the truth, actually. So when we simplify our life, we throw away the clutter. You can do that physically. You can get rid of all your old clothes that you don't need. You can get rid of all the books that you don't need, all of the things that you don't need. The spiritual clutter is important. And during Ramadan, we have an opportunity, golden opportunity, through trying to live a simpler life, trying to, instead of being what we think is out of ourselves, is reflecting Allah's simplicity. Allah is basit, he's simple in the sense that he's not a compounded being. And one of the ways in which we can reflect is through living a very, very simple life. And Ramadan encourages that through abstention, through encouraging us to abstain, not just from food and drink, but as I said before, food and drink are usually focused on because it's the food and drink which gives us power, or which appears to give us power. So when we abstain from taking on this fuel, we start to reach a state which is closer to our primordial state, closer to our created state, which is one of ajz and faqr, which is one of impotence and poverty. In that state, we are less tempted by personal bias, by personal assumptions, by custom, tradition. And we tend, because of this sort of simplification of our situation, we're able to listen to the Quran as though it is coming directly, and it is coming directly to us anyway. We're able to listen to it with a clean ear, metaphorically speaking, and with a clean heart. And that allows us to understand it better. It allows us then to act as I'm not going to say messenger, because that has a lot of, it's a loaded meaning and people will complain, it's heretical. We are all, in a sense, messengers. We're not prophets. We're not messengers in the prophetic sense. But what we say and do, through our body language, through our verbal language, communicates to others certain things about ourselves. Now, if we are reading the Quran and understanding the Quran in this highly elevated spiritual state, then we are going to be acting as the Quran's interpreter, and we're going to be communicating it to others more or less in the way that it should be communicated. And this happens most easily in Ramadan. So those are my initial thoughts. Thank you.
Jazakallah. So let me reread this sentence. So it says here, it allows us to listen to the Quran as though we are hearing it from the lips of the Prophet ﷺ and from the angel Gabriel, or indeed from the pre-eternal speaker himself. Brother Husamuddin, any thoughts for the entire paragraph, or this part specifically, please?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for this initial thoughts of Colin Hocam. It was very eye-opening for me. It was very, very good start. And actually, just adding a couple of things what I have heard from Colin Hocam, and try to expand on the next point maybe after that. Maybe Colin Hocam, if he starts talking on that, it would be better. The first thing coming to my mind is there is something in feeding our body. I cannot explain in neither psychological or physical terms nor spiritual terms, but this is what I can get from the text. There's something in the feeding our physical body, which actually becomes an obstacle in our cognition or in our understanding or comprehension or spiritual comprehension, whichever we can put it. It actually puts a barrier, and depending on our constant feeding of our physical existence, then the barrier increases. The barrier of seeing the revelation in its pure sense becomes more and more harder. And this is what I actually can get from the text. I cannot explain how this works. But maybe one thing actually we can relate. The more we increase this barrier by feeding our physical body, the less we realize that we are weak. We are weak creatures. And we don't have nothing at all in our physical existence. The more we become like this, I mean, we become forgetful about our very existence, our very nature, the more we become less attentive, less careful about what the real owner of our physical existence is talking about us. Maybe that's why it becomes harder for us to what Allah is really talking about in the Quran in most of the times. But when it comes to Ramadan, when we abstain from food, when we become when we actually feel in our existence that we are deficient, we cannot rely on ourselves all the time, because the food, when we take the food outside of our life, we actually feel that weakness very in our very bottom of our heart. And this shows that if I'm not the owner of my body, there must be someone who owns my body, and that someone sent a message to me, directly to me, and to be understood. So the message is there to be understood by my creator, and who owns me, who has the ability, who actually reflected on me that I have no ability to rely on my own self. So this is the first point that I would like to make.
Thank you, Jazakallah.
Can I just add something there? Well, actually, not add something, but
Please.
say that what Hussam has just explained is very, very rarely, we very rarely hear it from our scholars. We very rarely hear this from our speakers, somehow it's portrayed as though when we're weak and thirsty and needy, this is a kind of natural state. And for most people it is, and I put inverted commas, unnatural. So they try to assuage the feelings of thirst and hunger by quickly taking fuel on board so that they don't feel like that anymore. We are so used to keeping ourselves full of food and fuel, we think that is the natural state, and it's not. That's not a fitri state at all. Actually, our fitri state is pure hunger and pure thirst, because that's how we are. It's what we are. And Hussam has hit the nail on the head. It's through this that we can understand our true state. It's not unnatural to be hungry and thirsty. It's what we are. We lack. We have deficit. That is our usual, default setting, actually. Thanks.
Yeah, all great points, Jazakallah. There is also an interesting comment. Good, inshallah, I'll try to read that in the chat. Brother Harun says, doesn't this point ask us to take a time machine to go to the very time of revelation? In this sense, Ramadan is a time machine, which is supposed to be for me. Jazakallah. Time machine to go to the time of revelation. So we go there and listen to the Quran as though it's being revealed at that time.
We possibly understand that revelation has onto the time machine and come forward in time for us, because that gives us the idea then that the Quran is, dynamic and moved in a sense. I don't know. It makes no difference. It's a great idea. The time machine idea. It can work both ways, I think.
Yes. Okay.
Can I also add a point, Muhammad? Yeah. With respect to also, the Ramadan itself, the very first verses of Quran was revealed in the Ramadan. And before that, if you remember, Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was secluding himself from the rest of the society in the mountain, and he was staying in there, Hira cave. He was staying for long days. He was there actually, and as we know, the only food he was having, the ones that his wife was actually bringing him, and it was very limited. And apart from that food, he was also, in the state of abstention altogether. And during that state of being abstention from social powers, and physical feeds and everything, then the revelation, he gets ready to the revelation, and it becomes maybe this can be a message for us, and this actually a kind of a practice for many scholars in the past, we know. So they actually apart from Ramadan is a universal practice for all Muslims, but for many scholars, they stayed in this state of abstention for longer periods to make their body available for the meanings of revelation. Yeah, this is another point that I would like to mention. Thank
you. It's also another great point. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so I'll continue to read. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Indeed, it is as though in Ramadan, the whole world of Islam is transformed into a mosque, a place of prostration. In every corner of that mosque, millions of those who have memorized the Quran cause the dwellers on earth to hear that heavenly message. Each Ramadan reflects in the most luminous way the verse, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. It was the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was bestowed from on high. Each Ramadan reflects in the most luminous way the verse, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, meaning it was the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was bestowed from on high. It proves beyond all doubt that Ramadan is the month of the Quran. Some members of the West congregation listen to the Quran reciters with respect, while others recite it for themselves. To pander to the base desires of the lower self, while situated in a sacred mosque, and to abandon the state of holiness through eating and drinking is to invite the disgust of the rest of the congregation. Similarly, to those who oppose this practice of fasting in the month of Ramadan call upon themselves the disgust of the whole world of Islam. So there are a couple of points I would like to mention specifically, but please feel free to touch other points as well. So here it says, in every corner of that mosque, millions of those who have memorized the Quran cause the dwellers on earth to hear that heavenly message. Each Ramadan reflects in the most luminous way the verse, Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. It proves beyond all doubt that Ramadan is the month of the Quran. So up to here. So any thoughts, anything you want to share about this piece, Brother Colin?
Maybe start with Osama in this time.
Okay, inshallah.
Please start me because I have a question.
I have a question as well.
But my question is actually about the previous paragraph. Mohammed Abi, can you go a little bit back, please?
Sure.
Yes. In here, it says, it allows us to listen to the Quran as though we are hearing it from the lips of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then Angel Gabriel, and then from Allah Himself. I mean, this question is first Brother Colin and also Mohammed Ab, please answer if you can, because is this a natural mode that we enter after we stop eating and drinking, and how it works? I mean, do we need to do something to, or do we need to force our mind or imagination to be in this state? How this works, I really wonder, because for me it doesn't work automatically. Okay, we are fasting in Ramadan, but I don't know. Do you have any idea on that?
Is that me or just generally?
Yes, Colin, please.
You said it was me, but I don't really have an answer for you. Unlike you, I don't know. But if you think it's not automatic with you, it could be that, and I would like to think this, that you are in that state always, perhaps, which is why you don't feel as though there's a change. And that obviously is the state that we all should be in, that always we should listen to the Quran as though we're hearing it from Allah Himself. Yes, we are, actually. It's only our imagination which makes us think we're not, it's Tapi or Nabi or Ali or whoever is reading the Quran. But the voice is being created by Allah, the Qari in the mosque or, in the madrasa, his voice is created directly by Allah, and those words are anyway eternal. So I know what you mean. Is there a mechanism, can be triggered somehow? I think the first one is to rid ourselves of all of the clutter, and as you said yourself, not eating and not drinking. It means you're emptying a lot of the because when that power comes on board, when the fuel hits the body and it goes in the blood, after 20 minutes, we suddenly again feel the power that we didn't have. And when that power comes into our body, it triggers all of the memories of how it was before we were fasting. And, that power, we assume that power to be our own power. As you pointed out, it's not our own power. But when we don't have it and we're closer to our normal state, our fitri state, then, and again, I don't know how this works, but there is a kind of, and I want to avoid the word natural. There's a kind of a fitri receptivity. We're more receptive to the truth, and we're also more able to reflect the truth faithfully. Don't ask me how it happened. Is it a result of not having all of this influence of food, especially if you're eating heavy foods like meat, which make you feel sluggish and indolent and a bit animalistic? We have to bear in mind that what we eat, there's an English saying, you are what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
So the more meat we eat, the more animal-like we become, first of all. These are proven indications. So I don't know how it happens, but we may, Ustad says, make ourselves more holy. And I know exactly what he means. It means we simplify ourselves in a sense. And that allows us to receive the Quran and to interpret it more or less, directly as we see it, without any influence of clutter, spiritual clutter. I'm sorry, I'm not articulating this very well. But I think maybe you get what I'm saying.
So actually, there are a couple comments in the chat which might be related to this very topic we are talking about. The first one I would like to read, it says, nowadays there is so much of scientific evidence of fasting making your brain more alert and receptive. The release of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and adrenaline, both of which make us more alert and focused. And another comment says, in inventory management, storing inventory hides deficiencies in the production system. In other words, in order to keep less of inventory, a somewhat perfected system should be active so that production produces timely and doesn't rely on stocks. The fasting depletes our worldly inventory, acting as a mirror to see our real selves, personal machines with spirit, an opportunity to overhaul our life production system. And the another one is, would it be correct to say that less energy is channeled towards digestion and more to thinking?
Definitely. That's a wonderful thing. That's why we feel tired when we eat. Because all of the blood goes to the stomach, and we fall asleep. It goes to the stomach to help digestion. So that's a brilliant example. And again, we have systems from Harun. And this systems is everywhere. So wonderful observation.
Yeah, and Brother Fatih says, Colin Hoja's comments reminded me of the fact that the end of Ramadan is called Eid al-Fitr. And Brother Mehmet says, in Ramadan, when we fast, we slowly lose our power. We slowly lose our power, iqtidar, which is given to understand Allah. This reminds me of older people fasting. Fasting makes us lose our power gradually, even though we are not that old. We slowly witness how our later lives are going to be. After fasting 1 month, we update, refresh ourselves and organs, internal and external organs. That's why we pay fitr. We turn to our original creation. Okay. So I'll stop there, inshallah. Brother Sametin or Colin, do you want to add anything, or shall I continue to read, inshallah?
I had a question as well, which I hope someone can answer. We are told that Quran was revealed in the month of Ramadan. Are we not also told that it was revealed, all of the Quran was revealed together, and then after that it was revealed, in different surahs, different verses, piecemeal? I'm not clear on this. Can anyone clarify?
I cannot give you the reference, but I mean, this is what we have been, hearing, and there must be some narration on that, but I'm not really sure exactly.
But when it came to our Prophet, ﷺ, did it come?
Yes.
We know that it came, with one verse first, Iqra, and the other things which came afterwards. But was the whole of the Quran revealed at once to him that time, or was it after that time, or how? Does anyone know?
It was just narrated as the whole Quran was revealed to the earth first, the Sama of the earth, the heavens of the earth,
Right.
and then gradually to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is what I have.
Okay.
I know. Maybe someone knows better than me.
Yes, if Brother Fatih or Harun, if anyone, which is me, knows, please either unmute yourselves or please post in the chat. Okay. So let me read the last part one more time, and inshallah, so we can go to the 7th point after that. Indeed, it is as though in Ramadan, the whole world of Islam is transformed into a mosque, a place of prostration. In every corner of that mosque, millions of those who have memorized the Quran cause the dwellers on earth to hear that heavenly message. Each Ramadan reflects in the most luminous way the verse, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. It was the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was bestowed from on high. It proves beyond all doubt that Ramadan is the month of the Quran. Some members of the vast congregation listen to the Quran reciters with respect, while others recite it for themselves. To pander to the base desires of the lower self, while situated in a sacred mosque, and to abandon the state of holiness through eating and drinking, is to invite the disgust of the rest of the congregation. To invite the disgust of the rest of the congregation. Similarly, those who oppose this practice of fasting in the month of Ramadan call upon themselves the disgust of the whole world of Islam. Brother Sameddin, any comments on the last paragraph here?
Yes, actually, I have a comment and a question.
Mm-hmm.
It says in the ayah, the verse شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So it says, the Ramadan is the month. It was the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was bestowed from on high. If we take this ayah only for Quran itself, it says self-explanatory. But can we think of this ayah as Quran is revealed to us in Ramadan, but for each one of us, by when we become more and more ready to get the revelation, because Quran is not, as Kolnojam actually mentioned very nicely, is not a static text. It's a dynamic text that we actually live with it, and maybe our revelation, the written text Mus'haf is there, but the revelation occurs to us when we get into Ramadan and the state of holiness. So our revelation is a constant revelation, and which is not only in the written text, but also with the created text of the universe itself. So Quran of great Quran of the universe may also become more and more, apparent to us while we make the connection of the, written Quran and the created Quran. I don't know, Kolnojam, can you,
I'm trying to process that, because there's something huge in that. I think potentially you're saying, okay, the Quran is always accessible, always there, but in Ramadan there is it's a kind of special nuzul whereby you can access the Quran as it really is, if you use the mechanism that is given to us, i.e. fasting. So key to understanding would be to humble yourself, to fast, and then it will be, it is revealed. So maybe Ramadan's, specialness of Ramadan is that there is this revelation, which is different to the rest of the, and also maybe this is why we're advised to always fast, because it's only through fasting that the message can actually really be accessed. I think you've hit on something there, and it needs to be elaborated, I think. Oh, sorry, I didn't answer your question, but I think you've something there, and it needs to be thought about.
Yes, thank you, Kolnejam. This actually reminds me that when we read a text, I mean, if we cannot penetrate the meaning, can we say the text is, open to us? We cannot say, because it's there. We hold it, we keep it, but it's not opening our, doors to us. The more it opens up for us, maybe we can say the meanings reveal to us. The text is there. For example, there are, thousands of people who are, just for academic purposes, they read Quran, they make lots of, study or research on the Quran, but because the meaning, the real essential meaning of, the very existential message of Quran doesn't appear to their hearts, or their hearts are not open to accept it, and so we cannot say Quran is revealed to them.
I think you've just hit the nail on the head with the word open. Their hearts are not open. I don't think it's the Quran that's not open. The Quran is open. We are not open.
Yes.
So, you have to be open to it. It's like I can pick up the War and Peace, the novel, in Russian, original Russian, and it's there.
Yes.
I'm not open to it because I don't know Russian. So I have to be open to it. In other words, I have to prepare my cognition to understand Russian. I have to learn the language, in other words. And if I don't know the language and I start to try to read Cyrillic, and I studied Russian for a very short period of time, so I can read the words, but I have no idea what they're saying. And actually, that's like most of us with our reading of Quran. We read it and we don't really know what we're saying. But we have to be open. And one of the keys to opening human soul is Ramadan. And I think this is what you're saying.
Yes, this is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Related to that, the brother Ashraf posted something in the chat. Hazrat Sahal bin Abdullah Sestari Rahmetullah alayhi said, eating once in 24 hours is the way of the Siddiqeen. It is only with hunger that ikhlas, sincerity, and rectitude of the deeds are achieved. When Allah Ta'ala created the world, He instilled sin and ignorance in satiation, full stomach in overeating, and ilm, knowledge, and hikmah, wisdom, in hunger. Inculcate 4 attributes to perfect ibadah: hunger, seclusion, humility, and contentment.
That's an amazing narration.
And brother Harun posted, El-Mali commentary says, the Quran was revealed to heavens, Sema, in Laylatul Qadr as a whole, later revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, piece by piece, in 23 years.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, everyone. So any final thoughts, comments on the 6th point before we proceed to the 7th?
No, it was amazing. The observations are amazing. And someone, if you can post them in chat afterwards, post the chat in the WhatsApp afterwards.
We'll do, inshallah.
Yeah.
The 7th point, one of the many wise purposes behind the practice of fasting in Ramadan concerns the trade in good deeds and the earning of spiritual profit, which is one of the reasons why humankind was placed on earth. So this is why we were sent to the earth, to trade in good deeds and to earn spiritual profits. The reward for righteous actions in the month of Ramadan is 1,000 times more than in other months of the year. According to a prophetic tradition, each word of the all-wise Quran carries 10 merits when recited and will bear 10 fruits in paradise. During Ramadan, however, each word yields not 10 but 1,000 fruits, and verses such as the Ayat al-Kursi yield thousands of merits for each word. If they are recited on a Friday in Ramadan, the yield is even greater, and on the night of power, Laylatul Qadr, each word carries 30,000 merits. Indeed, the all-wise Quran, each word of which yields 30,000 eternal fruits, is like a luminous tree of tuba, which will earn in Ramadan countless millions of eternal fruits for those who believe. Consider then this sacred eternal trait and the profits to be had from it. Consider it and think of the infinite loss suffered by those who don't appreciate the true value of those words. In one sense, then, the month of Ramadan is like a market designed for the trade of the hereafter. It's a vast tract of fertile land where the crops of the hereafter may be sown. For the growth and flourishing of actions, Ramadan is akin to the showers of spring. It's a brilliant holy festival at which mankind displays its worshipfulness in the face of the sovereignty of the God's Allah's lordship. And it is because of it is so, mankind has been ordered to practice fasting and self-denial. I'll stop here. So this is a little longer point than the others. So any thoughts or comments so far, Brother Husamuddin?
No, I'd like to hear what Brother Colin would like to say.
Sorry, I was going to say exactly the same thing. I'm not a fan of this, what can we call it? The accounts book system of deeds, but I understand absolutely why Ustad uses it, and he uses it in a very judicious way. You know, about earning, profit and loss, and the accounts book with your good deeds and your bad deeds. And to me, it's always seemed like a bit mercantile and sort of, I don't know. Anyway, this is my lack, my deficits, and my poverty of understanding, because he was the Prophet ﷺ was dealing in a trading community, so these things make sense, and ultimately they do make sense. So sorry, that's not really a useful observation. Just
Thank you.
of my inability to really resonate with the trope.
So I'll continue, inshallah. So brothers in the chat.
Actually,
go ahead.
I would like to share a point about this. And I was actually thinking similarly with Kolnojam, but when we, I think this is a long journey, for many people, and for each one of us actually. And in the first, maybe steps of our journey, we really are driven by this motivators. I mean, it really motivates somebody who may not appreciate the deep or inner values of getting closer to Allah,
Right.
Understanding your very existence and your position addressing to Allah. These things really, they're driving people. But after certain stages, maybe these meanings should transform into another thing. Like, for example, when it says about profit, or when it says about the sawab reward, it can also be understood as the distance that we actually take, or the amount of way we take to the target of understanding more and more our Creator, or maybe the pace of it increase, the speed increase, or our ability to, to acquire more and more pure, revelation increase. These things, for some people, these things are much more than valuable than, fruits of paradise, because these things are the fruits of paradise now. Because Ustad mentions in another place, if you remember, the truths of Iman, the truths of belief, are sweeter than the fruits of paradise. And maybe this can also be understood in that way. Don't you think so?
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And there's nothing wrong with having this kind of mindset, as you say, particularly at the beginning of the journey. We all need different motivators and different drivers. And, it doesn't really matter. Some things that we're asked to consider can be completely wrong. For example, Ustad in his Ana Risalasi points this out. At the beginning of our journey, we make a comparison between ourselves and Allah. We say, just as I build my house, and there must be also someone who builds the universe. And now, actually, I don't build my house. I don't have the power to build my house, but it's a fiction, but it's a necessary fiction, which we can engage with at the beginning of the journey. But after a while, we have to admit that actually, I don't even build my house. So I understand sometimes these drivers and motivations may not sit easy with us, but they're there for a purpose and they're legitimate. So I absolutely understand, why this kind of commercial phraseology is used.
And this actually, appears to me when I think about, the 27 more degrees of, praying in Jama'ah, for example. I was asking to myself, why is it that, praying in Jama'ah is 27 degrees, greater than just praying by yourself? I think there's similar points here as well, because we may not, if we just think about, mathematical calculations, okay, now I'm going to Jama'ah and then I will make 27, more than my personal individual prayer. In reality, it may not work like that, but it drives me to go there, and not in every prayer I may get the same reward of, for example, sometimes when I go and engage with the rest of the Jama'ah, our comprehension is triggered, and I feel more and more close to my Creator in that moment, because I feel that, like my fellow believers, I'm in front of the Creator of all things created. And now the rest of my Muslim brothers and sisters, we are praying together to our very same Lord. And this actually increases something in me. And maybe that is the referred reward in the narration. We don't know, but it definitely has an impact on us.
Can you answer? Sorry, I was going to ask you another question. Priyan.
Yeah, that's all.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted.
No.
Can I ask you how you understand why this happens in Ramadan? Why is the reward for righteous action, more than in other months of the year? What do you think?
In my opinion, I think it's very similar to the sixth point. Nothing more I can add, but again, it's a reminder. It's a fitri, fitri time that puts us in our fitri, state of being. That's why our actions or our merits or our, meritorious actions becomes more and more, open to us. When we do them, we do them with more consciousness. We really feel the need of them. We really engage with them. And when we read Quran again, our engagement increases. And it actually applies to in all states of, doing good actions. And they are not become just like an action we do, just, just a habitual thing, but they, for example, a friend of mine just asked me the other day, how do you pray? Do you pray with your brain or do you pray with your, I forgot the thing, being, with, when we do things automatically, the organ actually controls it. I mean, you don't think about it. So this is a similar state. I mean, when we get into our fitri or simple state, things again become inhabitual. So we really start to think about them, in their own, main purposes. I don't know. Maybe this is just
a bit like the 6th point, as you said. It's in the 6th point. We are more open to a better interpretation, a better understanding, because there's less spiritual clutter. So with our deeds as well, we're open in the same way, and therefore we will understand them better and bring more to them, be more open to them. Is that what you're saying? It's similar, really.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah,
very similar. But this is a different way of, explaining or encouraging.
I would like to read a part from the 25th verse. The question and answer kind of reminded me this piece. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ulaika humul muflihun. So it is the tafsir of this part. It is those who shall prosper. It is they who shall prosper. Sorry. Ulaika humul muflihun. This verse is general and unspecific. It doesn't specify in what way they shall be successful, so that each person may find what he wants in it. Its words are few, so that they may be lengthy. For the aim of some of those it is addressing is to be saved from the. For the aim of some of those it is addressing is to be saved from the fire. Others think only of paradise. Some desire eternal happiness, yet others seek only God's pleasure, while others know their aim and they desire to be the vision of God, Allah, and so on. In numerous places, the Quran leaves the verse open in this way so that they may be general. It leaves things unsaid so that it can express many meanings. It makes it brief so that everyone may find his share. Thus it says, who shall prosper? It doesn't determine how they shall prosper. It is as if with this omission it is saying, O Muslims, good news. O you who fear God, you shall find prosperity through being saved from hell. O righteous one, you shall find prosperity in paradise. O you who seeks knowledge of God, you will attain God's pleasure. O lover of God, you will experience the vision of God, and so on. So there are more to it, but this kind of reminded me of that piece. So just to add what Brother Husamettin said, so we have, as human beings, Allah created us differently, and we might have different point of views, different priorities, or different things we care more about. And these righteous deeds and the rewards and the earnings, maybe some might not feel that much, but that might mean much more to other people. That's what I got from here. Don't know if it makes sense though.
Yeah, it's very, very related. Muhammad, thank you for sharing this. Very, very related. Thank you.
Okay, so let's continue, inshallah. So I'll start from here. In one sense, then, the month of Ramadan is like a market designed for the trade of the hereafter. It is a vast tract of fertile land, where the crops of the hereafter may be sown. For the growth and flourishing of actions, Ramadan is akin to the showers of spring. It's a brilliant holy festival at which mankind displays its worshipfulness in the face of the sovereignty of Allah's lordship. And it is because of it is so, mankind has been ordered to practice fasting and self-denial. Mankind has been told to abstain rather than surrender to the animalistic desires of its lower self, its lusts, and its desires for the trivial and the futile. By rising above its own animality and by ignoring the demands that the world makes of it, the lower self, nafs, is able to approach an angelic state and to engage with the trade of the hereafter. By rising above its own animality and by ignoring the demands that the world makes of it, the lower self is able to approach an angelic state and to engage with the trade of the hereafter. Through fasting, one approaches the state of the hereafter, the state of a spirit appearing in bodily form. A state of hereafter, the state of a spirit appearing in the bodily form. In that state, each human being becomes a mirror, reflecting all of the names of the one whom all beings need, but who is himself above all needs. MashaAllah. So I can go on, but if brothers, if you have any comments to share, we can listen to it.
Sorry, can you go back? I got thrown off the system for a while, so I think I've missed something.
Sure.
Is this a different point now?
Sorry, what's the question?
Is this a different point? Is this?
This, we are still going, continuing from the seventh one.
All right, we're still on the seventh one. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So let me read the last paragraphs again. In one sense, then, the want of Ramadan is like a market designed for the trade of the hereafter. It's a vast tract of fertile land where the crops of the hereafter may be sown. For the growth and flourishing of actions, Ramadan is akin to the showers of spring. It's a brilliant holy festival at which mankind displays its worshipfulness in the face of the sovereignty of God's lordship. And it's because of it is so, mankind has been ordered to practice fasting and self-denial. Mankind has been told to abstain rather than surrender to the animalistic desires of its lower self, nafs, its lusts and its desires for the trivial and the futile. By rising above its own animality and by ignoring the demands that the world makes of it, the lower self is able to approach an angelic state and to engage with the trade of the hereafter. Through fasting, one approaches the state of the hereafter, the state of a spirit appearing in bodily form. In that state, each human being becomes a mirror, reflecting all of the names of the one whom all beings need, but who is himself above all needs.
This is As-Samad, isn't it? It's last.
Oh yes, the name Samad.
Can we discuss this animality issue? I think by rising above its own animality and by ignoring the demands that the world makes of it, the lower self is able to approach an angelic state. Because in a sense, we are part animal, part angel, or we exhibit animal traits and we exhibit angelic traits. And it is what Ustad is saying here is that Ramadan is geared towards encouraging an angelic state, because in that angelic state, and remember, it actually is higher than an angelic state, because angels are conscious but not self-conscious, whereas we are they are aware but they're not self-aware, whereas we can be self-aware. So if we are angelic and in a self-aware state, then we become higher than the angelic state. Is this what he's saying? Is this the key to this whole treatise? That Ramadan is special because it gives you opportunity through abstention to transcend our animal state and to access our angelic state. Then all of these things become understandable. It becomes understandable why the Quran becomes more interpretable to us, and also it becomes understandable why our deeds are multiplied. Hossamuddin, what do you think?
Yes, very similar. And just maybe another point Also, we know that, shaitans, devils are chained in the month of Ramadan. One of the things that we know. Also, as Ustad mentions, is a kind of festival of Allah. Here it says, I think it's two side. I mean, on one side, Allah is showering more and more extra mercy in the specific month, and also we are ordered to be ready for this shower, for this rain of mercy. I think it works two ways.
Great point, yeah.
I mean, it's not only that we are fasting, that's why everything becomes more and more good. I think it also is that Allah is also sending more and more, and also He's asking us to become ready for this more.
Okay, so there's two things happening, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I get.
Because the Quran is always being revealed.
Yes.
But we know that there are, alternations and there is flux and there is change. And for example, sometimes one verse was revealed, but sometimes a whole surah was revealed together. So it's not that Allah has to reveal in a steady state. So Ramadan is a special month. It's one of the marks of our tradition where the revelation appears to be more, maybe more intense, maybe, I don't know, how do we quantify more? Maybe just more.
Yes.
It's difficult to explain, but, it's different. Ramadan is different.
Yes. So let me actually just quickly read the next paragraph, which is about the festival, the holiday Brother Samettin mentioned. Indeed, the month of Ramadan itself acquires a kind of permanence and eternity within this short life, within this brief, fleeting world. For a single Ramadan is able to produce fruits equal to a lifetime lasting 80 years. The fact that, according to the Quran, the night of power, Laylatul Qadr, is more auspicious than 1,000 months, 83 years, is proof of this, if proof were needed. For example, a monarch may declare that certain days of his reign, his ascension to the throne, for example, or his official coronation are to be public holidays. These holidays are designed to be a glittering and glorious expression of his sovereignty. On those days, he confers special favors on his subjects, appearing before them in person, bestowing on them honors and other bounties, and paying special attention to those of them who are especially loyal and worthy. Similarly, the all-glorious monarch is a ruler without beginning or end of 18,000 worlds. And the ruler has revealed in the month of Ramadan the brilliant decree known as the all-wise Quran, which pertains to each one of those worlds. Wisdom thus requires that Ramadan should be like a special festival, a display of divine lordship, a spiritual gathering for all beings. And since Ramadan is such a festival, God, Allah, has ordered man to practice self-restraint in order to draw him away to a certain extent from base and animalistic activities. So time is up, I guess. So before we finish, so Brother Colin, any last thoughts, comments you want to share?
No, this has been really, really interesting and helpful and eye-opening, and lots of observations in the chat. Lots of things to think about.
Thanks for reminding the chat as well. So let me read the last few ones I have missed. I think, okay, Brother Harun says, in Quran, a nice word is likened to a tree. Ramadan is a climate to grow nice words, since the quality of consciousness is supposed to increase. And another one says, we are more mindful in Ramadan. And the next one says, climate matters. Ramadan is the spiritual springtime. And the other one, the reward for actions depends on how mindful you are. And the last comment says that Ramadan is a maintenance workshop, particularly for the spirit. And Jazakallah for all those comments. Brother Husamettin, any last words from you?
No, thank you. Jazakallah khairan. It was very, helpful for me to increase my understanding of Ramadan. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you everyone for joining, and inshallah we will continue from here next week, and may Allah make it beneficial for all of us, and may Allah help us to live Ramadan according to the wisdoms behind it, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.